Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're looking at 8 things you didn't know about guitar. No need to beat around the bush, let's just dive on in. Number 1, it's impossible to be perfectly in tune. Guitar, like any other fixed tuning instrument such as a piano, can mathematically never be perfectly in tune with itself. Based on the way Western tuning works using the harmonic series, if certain notes are perfectly in tune with each other, others will be way out. To compensate, we use something called equal temper tuning, which makes it so that each note is slightly and equally out of tune. And that's my extremely quick way to gloss over a fairly complex subject. If you want to learn more about that, I've got a link for you down in the description. Number 2, why the Fender logo changed in 1968. Up until 1968, the Fender logo looked something like this. However, that would change when Fender started using a larger headstock featuring a bigger and bolder decal. In 1965, Fender was sold to CBS, the same company you would know as a television network. They implemented this new headstock as a way to create space for this bigger decal. Why? A simple marketing decision. A larger logo stands out more, especially in the age of black and white TV. More brand recognition, more guitars sold. It's all business, baby. Number 3, the unfortunate fate of the Hateful Eight guitar. There's one scene in the Quentin Tarantino movie, Hateful Eight, where actor Kurt Russell smashes an acoustic guitar. Don't worry, it's not a big spoiler. Martin had lent a priceless 150-year-old guitar to the filmmaker. This guitar was to be used until a cut in the scene where the authentic 6-string would be swapped out with a replica and the replica would be smashed to smithereens. Somewhere along the way there was a communication breakdown, and it turned out the priceless Martin was the one that ended up getting the Pete Townshend treatment. A fairly legendary TIFU. Speaking of expensive axes, that brings us to number 4, the world's second most expensive guitar, sold for $2 million. That's a decent chunk of change for this guitar, but it is arguably one of the most recognizable pieces of all time. This 1968 white Stratocaster strung up for a lefty, played by Hendrix at Woodstock, was reportedly sold for $2 million to Microsoft CEO Paul Allen. Not a bad markup for a guitar that would likely have costed around $400 when it was originally bought. Which brings us to our next fun piece of trivia. Number 5, the world's most expensive guitar, sold for $2.7 million. In 2004, a tsunami devastated Southeast Asia. As a means to raise funds for the disaster, a white Stratocaster signed by rock's biggest legends was sold at auction for $2.7 million. The guitar was purchased by a woman who is known as the most influential person in the arts. This is her name. My apologies, I would only butcher it if I tried to pronounce it. Moving on to number 6, the oldest known guitar. When most of us think of old guitars, we think of Fenders and Gibsons from the 50s, and maybe even those beauty Martins from the 20s. But the oldest known guitar predates those by over 300 years. Believed to be built in 1590, this 10-string guitar was built by Portuguese luthier Belcher Diaz. A truly priceless piece of history, and I would recommend that the owner take out a restraining order against Quentin Tarantino. Number 7, the origins of the Windmill. Pete Townshend of The Who is not only known for his brilliant rock operas, but also his wild on-stage antics. Smashing his equipment and his signature windmill strumming technique were often on display at Who concerts. The origins of the Windmill can actually be attributed to another British invasion band. You may have heard of them, the Rolling Stones. Early in their careers, The Who were opening for the Stones. And one night before the show, Keith Richards was swinging his arm around in the windmill motion. Townshend assumed that this was going to be part of the Stones spectacle, as to him it looked extremely cool. The Rolling Stones play their set, and Keith Richards doesn't use this move, so the Who guitarist asks him about it. Apparently, Keith says that he was warming up his arm and wouldn't be caught dead doing ballet on stage. The rest is history, as Pete Townshend took the windmill for himself. To finish off our list of fun guitar facts, I'm going to tell you about number 8, the first ever guitar recording. The first recording device was invented by Thomas Edison in 1877. Some 20 years later, the first guitar recording would be made. Sometime between 1897 and 1901, Luis and Simon Ramirez recorded a number of songs, which you can hear today. Links in the description. There's not much information out there about these two or this recording session, but it's really interesting hearing something that was recorded over a century ago. And that's the end of our list. I hope you guys learned something new, and if any of this comes up on trivia night, you're gonna crush it. I'm Samurai Guitarist, and I want to take a second to thank everyone who supports my videos through Patreon. Without people like you, these videos would not be possible. If you're interested in helping secure a future for this channel, please consider hitting that link over there and becoming a patron. Thank you all for watching. I will see you again next time.